Third time's a
Really,
charm with
really
your
good.
event, huh?
Jeez, this year's been crazy.
Houston has had it rough for the
Yeah,
last, 5 years or whatever since Hurricane Harvey. That was mind blowing. I can't imagine how much your insurance has gone up.
60% in the last 5 years.
Well,
Yeah,
let me know if you're
on.
coming to Dallas.
You might need to make some space for me over there because I might be joining you. That's kind of one of the hardships for owning houses right now, right? Like our insurance is going up so high, our taxes have skyrocketed for all of our investment properties, and so cash flow is like out the window right now. But yeah, I guess maybe that's also like one of the things I wanted to catch up with you on is like you being a market expert from Dallas and really, knowing you, like I know you practice here as well, and I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about what you thought and where you saw the market going.
What we're seeing right now in the market, I mean, especially in Houston, Harris County has so many foreclosures. Like it's one of the top in the entire country. Normally, it's like New Jersey, like always takes the list, but like Harris County, Houston area, and because of what you just said, it's just the cost of living. And that's what we see all over Texas. I don't know if you saw, but Bloomberg News did an article. They actually interviewed us. Texas and Florida, the top two states right now with the most short sales and the most foreclosures because of insurance, because of taxes, like the things that you were just saying. And not only that, the type of sellers we're seeing are the sellers that just purchased the last couple years. So when the market was a market where people were fighting for inventory, you remember, because you've been doing this, people were paying so much over asking of what it's actually worth. And it was like, oh yeah, look, I just got this house. I spent 50,000 over what it's worth. And you're like, how is this a good idea? Well, now as a result, we're working with sellers from 2022 and 2023 that are now stuck in these mortgages where they can't get out of. And they even are hiring realtors, they're putting it on the market and they're not selling. So those are a lot of the sellers that we're working with as well, because we're seeing people that right now we just have an affordability problem. It's not really a market problem, it's an affordability problem. We have people that can't afford to live. So of course it's directly affecting the housing market.
That's interesting. It's funny because if you look at like what people were complaining about just like a year or two ago, it was we don't have enough houses. It was a shortage of inventory problem, and
Yep.
everybody was looking at each other like, really, is that really what it is? Because everything that you're putting on the market is flying off, and I get it. People are not getting what they want, but look at what's really happening out there. And then now the market is completely shifted. It's completely different. And you're absolutely right. People can't afford their groceries, yet, we're thinking that they can afford their houses. And with taxes and insurance bills climbing exorbitantly, how are they going to be able to sustain? That leads me to the next question, I think. With all of that said, with you being a market expert in opportunities, where is the opportunity coming from? How do you see agents overall being able to thrive through this?
Well, I think that we need to take our real estate agent hat off and we need to figure out, hey, how can I create a solution for these sellers? Right? People, especially realtors, they go into this autopilot of like, I can list your house. And sometimes that's not the best avenue for that seller, especially if a seller's in foreclosure. Sometimes just putting it on the market's not enough, right? So we have to think differently, just like any market cycle. We've been around for a while, 14 years. I remember I came in the worst possible time, right? While most people are leaving and going through market cycles, you learn like, okay, if you do not learn how to pivot, if you don't learn how to constantly adapt to the type of sellers, to the type of market that we're in, and you get stuck on the way that you've been doing it, this is why so many realtors are leaving the industry. I mean, period, right? And so the person that can provide the solution, that's the person that's going to get the deal because you make it about that seller instead of about your commission or compensation or whatever you want to say, right? whatever the magic word is, like at the end of the day, you have to make it about that person. And right now, we're looking at a completely different homeowner and we're also looking at a different kind of buyer. I mean, think about, we said sellers can't afford to sell, buyers can't afford to buy. Right. So, this is where we have to be creative and say, hey, let's change the narrative on real estate agents and say, hey, instead of you thinking that we have this commission breath, like we actually provide so many solutions and really connect so many people. We have so many resources that even real estate investors don't have. Like, this is our time to shine, truly, because there's just so much opportunity. And most realtors, like, they have no clue. And that's why they're leaving the business.
Yeah, it's an interesting because when we were just talking about that, and we were saying the opportunity is going to show in so many ways, and part of what we're seeing in terms of opportunity is the fact that so many realtors are leaving the business. And as
Yeah.
a broker on my end, with you as a team leader, I know that that doesn't always sound or feel good when we think agents are leaving the business because obviously, we grow from having a larger team. And at the same time, I'm realizing that as more agents leave, the ones that are real serious about the business, the ones that really want to do the right thing and really play it at a high level are the ones
Yeah.
that are staying. And
Yeah.
that just gives an opening and an opportunity for all of us who are still going to stick through this and fight through this to really make it work, not just for ourselves, but like you said, for the consumer, for someone who's reaching out to us and really wants guidance. So I love that you mentioned that. With that said, though, part of what we're going to be doing in September is giving realtors the resources and knowledge to think at this level. Because you're right, they get stuck. They walk into a house and they can only see listing. And
Yeah.
that is such a small viewpoint of what you can truly offer. What can a realtor gain who comes to our event on September 19th and is listening to you, myself, and some of the other speakers talk about these other ways of finding success in this crazy market?
Well, I think the best thing we can give the realtors that are coming in is the gift of perspective of how to do things differently because you're learning from people that have already gone through a market like this, right? We've already built businesses and we thrive in a situation like this. So, we're going to show you how to talk to these type of sellers, how to look at a deal and how to figure out what the best exit strategy is and how to make money and create opportunity when most people are going the opposite way and getting jobs and getting out of the industry. I know this isn't popular, but like I'm excited that a lot of people are leaving because I truly believe, I mean, seriously, I truly believe we need a rebranding. Being in both the real estate agent world and the real estate investor world, I see both sides. I see how powerful the relationship can be when you have a really good investor and a really good realtor. But I've also seen the opposite as well, right? Bad agents and bad investors. And so I think when realtors can understand there are so many different ways to sell a house that you'll now look at it and say, okay, instead of I can't help you, oh, because you owe too much, oh, this could be a short sale and this is how I do it. Or, hey, it may not be good for the market, but I could do creative finance. Like I could just keep going, right? So I think when you come to this event, this is a great starting point to say, you know what? I'm going to look at things differently so I can create opportunities versus I don't know how to help these sellers and there's nothing out there and all the things they say, right, to leave the business.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it reminds me, I picked up a listing where the seller had met with three agents, and all three agents had told him that because he didn't have enough equity, they were not able to list it. And what we did is we put it on the market with creative financing, and boom, all of a sudden he made exactly what he wanted. He was able to walk away. We put a little bit of money in our pocket. Everybody won. It was a win-win scenario.
Yeah.
But there was three people ahead of me that hadn't even thought about the fact that they could work outside that box of let me just get a listing and put a sign in the yard.
I mean, to your point, that's a great example because all you did was look at the opportunity and say, okay, how can I structure this to make it a win 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 for the buyer, for the seller, and for yourselves to get paid in the process? I mean, we're 100% referral. And we are 100% referral from realtors all over the country who don't know how to help these sellers. In addition to that, we meet with sellers all the time that are, it's the same way where they're like, oh, well, I had it on the market and the agent didn't know how to sell it. Or I already spoke with several agents. They said you can't help and that there's nothing you can do. And it's all because of a lack of knowledge of how to really facilitate the deal. I mean, that's why the 1% are crushing it because they know how to look at it as a whole instead of through the tunnel vision of what you know.
Yeah, I completely agree. With you being the short sale queen, and I know that you recently released a book on it, what do you see happening with short sales in the next year? Is this something that we should really be preparing for?
Oh, absolutely. The last couple months, specifically in Texas, I would say April of 2024 of this year, we have seen a massive increase because of what I was saying earlier of the people that just bought in 2022 and 2023 and they can't sell it. They've even gone as far as listing it and they've tried and they couldn't sell it. So those are the majority of our referrals right now of agents that have tried and failed in trying to sell it. And then on the other end, all of the people from the pandemic that literally fell behind in 2020 and they've been going back and forth with their bank since. And now they're at the point where they're either going to face foreclosure or sell the property. So I think that with interest rates staying where they are, I think with the amount of like what we talked about earlier about this affordability problem, I think this is just going to be an ongoing issue, at least for the next couple years.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the big problem that we have right now isn't that we lack houses, it's that we lack understanding of what the impact is on being able to actually sell or actually buy. And there's so many people out there who are stuck. Last estimates that I heard, 20 million people are sitting on the sidelines still waiting for interest rates to drop and trying to get back into the market. Do you see that happening at any given point in the next year or two?
I mean, I think we're in the wild, wild west because of the politics. And this is not a political statement, but I think that they could absolutely drop just as a way of being like, see, we did it, vote for us type of thing. I don't think that we will ever get back to the 2 to 3%. I just don't see it happening. So all the people that are waiting for those pandemic rates, I think you're going to wait a long time. But there has to be some type of relief because you can't sit here and say, hey, the median is 500,000 for a simple 3-2 single family home, and then say, by the way, you're paying 6 to 7%. Like it just doesn't make sense. And all of the realtors that you guys love sharing those memes of like, oh, back in the day it was 13%. Yeah, for a $30,000 house, I'm in. I will pay 13%. But that's just not where we are. Like that absolutely will kill the deal because you're looking at double the payment for the same starter home. I mean, prices have got to come down in order for it to make sense. And that's what's happening. I mean, on a bigger scale, it's funny how the media likes to have this narrative of like, oh, we still have a shortage of inventory. Hey guys, no, 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 no. But boots on the ground, we know that the market shifted a year ago and they're just now, we're past the summer. They're just now saying, okay, the market shifted a little bit. It's a little bit of, I'm like, where have you been? It's been over a year, but it's just because they don't want to create this narrative, right? They want to say everything's fine, keep buying, keep buying. And it's like giving even the sellers out there saying, oh, well, it's fine. It's still a seller's market. No, it's not. Like, are you kidding me? There's 10 houses in one neighborhood that's trying to sell. We have new build communities that are blowing up our email, which we know that builders do not talk to realtors unless they're desperate. And they're saying, forget about cutting commission. I had one yesterday. It was like, I'll give you 6%. I was dying. I'm like, I see all these posts with realtors freaking out. And then you've got new builds, brand new homes that are like, here, just take it. So what does that tell you
Mhm.
about the market? If new builds can't sell, what do you think is going to happen for a pre-owned? I mean, that tells you right there where we're at. So I
Yep.
don't remember the question, but I think that everything can change. I think that everything can change. I think we have to just be prepared that for a little bit, it's going to be hard. So like we said, we've got to figure out how can we be, creative on how we sell these houses.
All right, let's take our realtor hat off and let's talk about investments because I think most of the people that will attend our event on September 19th are going to be there because they either want to invest or have already invested and want guidance as to what's next.
Yeah.
So, with your investment hat on, are you buying houses right now? What are you doing? Does it make sense? What are your thoughts on this?
So I think that when it comes to buying properties, there's always a good time if you buy right, right? So at the end of the day, we can look at it from both sides. We can say, okay, well, houses really aren't moving, it's not worth it. But then we can also say, okay, because houses aren't moving, you can get really good deals, right? So I think as long as you understand and you adapt to where, hey, if you're going to buy a flip in this market, make sure that you are planning for 6 months, right? Just in case. Make sure you are, looking at the lowest comp. Or I even tell my students, like, do the average. Don't sit here and say, oh, well, I'm going to make it beautiful, which you have to, right? Like, you've got to stick out like a sore thumb. There's no basic flips anymore, y'all. Like, that's out. Like, you can't do the gray and this, and, you can't slap some paint on it and expect it to sell. Like, buyers, if they're going to buy in this market, they are picking everything apart. So besides the design aspect, make sure that you are pricing aggressive and that you are factoring that in when you buy, because the people that get tripped up with these flips, it's because they don't buy right. And then they're like, oh, it's the market. Like, no, it's your numbers and you weren't prepared. So because you weren't prepared, it just took you out and now you didn't make a profit. So I think investing is always a great idea. I think you can get even better deals. Me personally, I'm buying to hold because there's so much opportunity. I'm actually buying one in Portland, Corpus Christi right now. I'm going to turn into an Airbnb. I mean, the ones that are going to be cash flowing for the short term and midterm rentals is what I'm focusing on. I do have a flip. I haven't done a flip in a couple months, but I have a flip that's coming up because it's an insane deal. So I'm like, no problem. I'm going to factor in 6 months of, reserves, just make sure. And we're going to make good money regardless. So it's just knowing your numbers is the most important thing.
I didn't realize how much we have in common. So I recently picked up a multi-unit, a small multi-unit. Half of it is going to be Airbnb short term, half of it
Mhm.
is going to be long term, and we're doing a hybrid play on it because of the volatility of the market and because we want to increase cash flow.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that part of that, and this is the first time we've ever done that, where we're being very creative in the hold part of the portfolio.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing that this is the new way. It's being creative to the point that you can be flexible in the way that you're looking at the deal. So even like with what you said, being able to give or provide different options to a seller, it's also when you're a buyer, when you are the investor, when you're also the one that's acquiring properties, being able to look at it in different ways and say, okay, this may work this way, this could work that way, or we could look at it this third way and
Yeah.
see if it actually maximizes our returns. I love the fact that you're doing that. I'd love to see it when it's done, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. I actually went with my kids last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and I'm excited just to be able to utilize it because it's so close to the water. And for me, and I have a cabin already and equipment. Like I have several Airbnbs, and they do great. I know that when you're purchasing short term, it's all about location and your experience, right? And so that's always been something that I've implemented with my own properties because I see so many investors take the shortcuts, and I know what the deal breakers are for buyers. And, as a consumer myself, that's the way I look at everything. And I think that's what makes it work as opposed to the people that just don't pay attention to the details. It blows my mind, people that invest and just think that, well, it's a house, just buy it. Like I put some money into it and there's no thought process, there's no design process, and most importantly, there's no functionality. And so the houses just sit there. And I mean, I have relationships with a lot of lenders that I've gotten foreclosures from that are hard money lenders that literally investors couldn't sell it. And so when I tell you, like I've seen the worst case scenario in all of these deals, like I buy right, because I've seen every
Yep.
scenario of how this goes because it's the wild, wild west when it comes to investing. I mean, there's always going to be something even that you could not project. So you just have to be prepared for it.
I think that is possibly the next wave of really great deals coming. Not just because I've heard of it, but because I'm actually seeing it in my current practice. One of the deals that we picked up last month was a deal that an investor, because they didn't have a designer, because they didn't think about all the details and had no focus, they thought they were just going to
Yeah.
tear it down to the studs and put sheetrock again. The deal fell apart. They couldn't finish it and they
Yeah,
had to walk away from it. We picked it up for 120 grand, two houses in the middle of downtown. I mean, an unheard
that's
of deal
insane.
that you can
Yeah.
never really see anywhere else, right? But it was interesting because it really came from another investor who really hadn't thought everything through.
Yep.
And so, it sucks to see an investor not make it. And I'm seeing that because investors are making mistakes and not really putting their pencil and pen together and doing the homework, that there's going to be enough for seasoned folks like you and I who can come in and say, actually, all you needed to do was just think about what the floor plan needed to be and make it functional.
But I mean, what a blessing that you were able to come in and save that person, because even though it was an incredible opportunity for you, like they would have lost so much on that. So it would just, that is absolutely a win-win. I'll give you another example. There's a house I have on the market right now that's actually an REO, and I'm working with the lender because I'm like, this house, we cannot keep doing price reductions. Like, you've got to fix the freaking layout. Because at the end of the day, the buyers are like, yeah, I understand that I have equity coming into this, but I don't care because it's not functional. And this investor intentionally put up walls. Like, we have a master with no window. Like the things that they decided were just insane. And I walked the property. It's literally $1 million house, and we have it listed now for like 800,000. And I'm like, until we fix this core issue, like it doesn't matter how much of a discount. It does not make sense, you know. And I see that a lot. It's like I always say, I'm like, okay, you are a consumer, so pretend like you live here. Like, walk the property. Like, are you okay sleeping in a room that has no windows, which although also you can't even count it as a room legally because it needs a closet and window, but just stuff like that, you know, people just don't correlate the two and think that that's so important. And I'm like, yeah, it's gorgeous, but it's just not functional, you know? So like you said, I think in those opportunities of us coming in and being able to capitalize on like, okay, well, I'm going to help you, but I'm also just going to take over and finish it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, all right, September 19th, you are our guest speaker. You're opening up, you're giving us a ton of insight. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to be sharing with us that day.
Yeah, so I am going to focus on how to connect and talk with pre-foreclosures. And so this is something that most realtors and even investors just have no clue. I'm going to show you the top objections. I'm going to walk you guys through of like how to overcome them, and really dealing with someone that's in this situation that needs you but doesn't want to work with you, how to provide clarity, because the most powerful thing you can do is help them come to terms with where they're at. And once they realize like, okay, I don't really have any other options. I know delusionally I was thinking that I did, but I don't. So what do I do? You know, and teaching you how to drive the bus so that you're now helping them step by step so that you can help facilitate the deal and create a win-win. And there's not going to be a one size fits all, right? We got to get context. We got to get down to the heart of what the situation is and what is the best strategy to be able to help them so that they can avoid foreclosure and that you can also make money in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And no better way to do that than understanding exactly what to say, what questions to ask, and how to help
Yep.
people make those really, really hard decisions. Because that's ultimately what it is. It's
Right.
helping someone make a decision that's really challenging, really difficult before they have to go to the courthouse steps, lose their property, and then be evicted, which is the worst thing that could happen. Because at that point, they not only lose the house, but they lose their equity. So it's a
Yep.
terrible situation for most people to be in. Yet so many people go through it and just forget about all of their possibilities.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I'm excited to have you on, Nicole. I know you and I have been working really, really hard. It's been months, maybe even almost a year at this point, that we have worked diligently on having you as our opening speaker. Our team is super, super excited to meet you, to get a copy of your book, to listen to all of your insight. You have done phenomenal in this market. And I think our agents are going to be really, really educated from just having a little bit of time with you and listen to what you have to say on this. Just real quick as we close out, I know we're running out of time. What are your thoughts on agents also being investors? Is that a good thing, a bad thing? What do you think agents should be doing right now in this market?
I think it's a great thing. I think if you understand how to be an investor, it will change your mindset. Being able to connect the dots, be able to bridge that is so important. Because, like I said earlier, they're really great investors and really great realtors. And if you can figure out, okay, if I am an investor and I'm investing, I'm going to know what that looks like when I'm structuring the deal versus, oh, well, it's going to be, $10,000 to renovate it. And you're like, what? Like most realtors are so disconnected. And how can you truly sell a house if you don't know what the real value is? Because you don't even know what it's going to take to put in, the money and work. And so it just really gives you a different perspective of what it really takes to renovate real estate, right? Like to be able to invest your own money so that you can see the process. I mean, I personally, when I started investing, I was like, okay, I've done hundreds of transactions. This is a long time ago. I'm like, how do I not know this side of it? And the construction piece of it was a whole other ball game, right? And then I'm like, man, I felt bad that I was giving these estimates because I had no idea what I was talking about, right? And so it's true, like until you pay $60,000 for a basic renovation, you're like, oh wow, why did I ever say 10,000? So I feel like it'll just help you be a better professional, even if you're not wanting to put your own money in the beginning. But then it's also going to show you that you really are it. As a realtor, you're the one that gets the opportunities. So you'll know your value of like, okay, this is my value proposition. Like I'm getting the deal. That's the hardest part is getting the deal. And now you have all of these different opportunities to say, okay, I can give this to you, investor, a great cash flowing deal, or I now can be able to create wealth through real estate as well. Like that's why we all get into it. So it just provides gives you a great new perspective on how to sell real estate, but it'll also give you a whole new avenue to make money.
I love that. I think that's a fantastic way to end our amazing conversation. That's why we all got into it. Hopefully, that's why we all got into
Yeah.
it, to create wealth. It isn't just
Yep.
about coming into this business to help other people buy and sell. That's fantastic. That's the front part, the basic
Yep.
part of the business. The truth behind the entire big picture part of the business is that we're here to create wealth, not only for others, also for ourselves along the way as the people that are front line to these opportunities. But it doesn't work unless we have the knowledge, unless we have the resources, the contacts. And so thank you for being part of that success for everyone else, Nicole. I can't wait to see you here in Houston and listen to you speak. And again, for those of you guys that are following, reach out to us, ask us how to get discounted tickets. We have a couple of them still available and we can share those with you. All you got to do is shoot us a quick DM and we'll get you guys set up so you guys can join us for the next REConnect. We'll see you soon.
Bye.